Hello and thank you for joining me in our second video in our short series on making a long border at the RHS Wentwoth Woodhouse show in July. The show's about 3 weeks away now, and obviously we've been working quite hard getting everything ready for it. The things that we'll show you in the video today are making a bamboo fence, Chiriana, finding an Acer, and also our Camellia woes. This is a typical Japanese fence you see in tea gardens. It's called a yotsumigaki or a foro fence. You see it at the junction between the inn and the outer tea gardens, and usually there's a gate here which we'll have at the show. We're going to make 2 of these actually to take with us, and we're going to make them here and actually take them as a portable version so we can sink them in the border there, and it'll save us a lot of time. And so we'll show you now the process of actually making these to take to the show.
Right, so we started with some bare timber posts to build our yotsumigaki, which is the 4-eyed fence we're using in the garden. The first thing we did was use an ancient Japanese tradition of burning the timber to preserve it, which also brings out the grain really nicely. We tried a couple of different techniques over an open fire, but we found the best technique was to use a small blowtorch and go over the timber with it. So we went down the length and then we cut them to size, and we also charred the ends there. We then used a Danish oil to oil it up, and then that also brings out the grain really nicely, as well as making it really easy to handle, otherwise every time you touch it you get covered in soot. So the next job after the posts were blackened was to fix the horizontals in. So each piece of bamboo had to have a hole drilled at either ends. Now, this was slightly tricky because the bamboo's all slightly different thicknesses, and each bamboo is a different thickness at either end, so each hole used a different drill bit. And so once the 6 holes were drilled, we then fixed the horizontals in place with silicone sealant, and then the whole unit we've braced at the bottom with some pieces of timber which in the garden will be hidden underground, and that helps us transport it with ease and fix it into the garden sturdily.
We're actually using the traditional black twine that they use in Japan, and this is the same twine that's used on our Shurido gate. It looks much better if you use a double strands. So the first thing we do is to drag out a length that we might need of this double strand, and then we're going to soak it in water for about 2 or 3 minutes to soften it. And this is where it becomes really messy because all the carbon comes out of the fibers, and that's why we're wearing gloves, because it stains everything in sight. So we'll do that first, and then we'll do a close-up of the actual tying of the knot. So I've soaked the twine for about 2 or 3 minutes, and all the carbon's come out into the water. So this is a particularly messy part of the proceedings. What I'm using is a bucket just to catch the drips, and hopefully not get too much carbon on Nick's legs at the same time. We'll now do a close-up of tying the knots, and we'll do this joint here first. So you double twine, you always start on the right hand side, and you go underneath the horizontal pole, make a diagonal underneath the horizontal pole the other side, loop the string around the back, and tighten as much as you possibly can at this stage. Make another diagonal across, like so. Your right hand is always on top of your left hand at this point. Tighten, make a loop around, and hold the loop underneath with your left hand so it actually does this. Again, tighten as much as you can. Bring this one through and underneath, back through the loop, transfer over, change it a bit, and then pull tight, and then snip it off at the appropriate size. One of the completed fences went quite well. Looks good, I think. All the bits on the bottom will be hidden by the ground level, which is indicated by the red tape. It's quite light, quite portable, and I hope people will find it quite authentic when they see it at the show. My other little project this week is to make a portable Chiriana to take to the show with us. It's an ornamental dust pit, which is a sign that the garden's been cleaned prior to having a tea ceremony. Usually it's got a few sprigs of an evergreen in it and a pair of ornamental bamboo chopsticks. This is a square one, but ours is round. Normally you get the round ones under the eaves of the tea house before you have your tea ceremony. And I'll show you now how I made ours, which is made out of hypertufa. So it's light and we can take it with us when we go to the show, and it'll be surrounded by ground cover so you won't see the base. But it serves the same purpose, and it gives people an idea of what a Chiriana is and what it's for. It is our portable Chiriana, which is this strange looking thing here. It looks like some kind of weird wedding cake tin stroke former, but I'm going to make it out of hypertufa. Now the hypertufa recipe that most people use is actually contains peat, which I don't want to do. So it's a mixture of equal parts of Portland cement. I'm using vermiculite rather than perlite, and the other thing, rather than peat, I'm using sieved leaf mold. I've got some very fine leaf mold, and I thought, well, they're both fairly similar products really when you look at them. So I'm going to give that a go. I'll have to put some oil on the inside of this former so it doesn't stick, and I'll show you a close-up of what this looks like, and then obviously show you the result afterwards. So we are now nearly 48 hours later since I made the Chiriana, which is, as you see, a weird wedding cake type former, and it's made out of hypertufa. Hopefully it'll gone off adequately in the last 2 days, and I'm hoping that I can get the formers away from the hypertufa without too much damage to the actual Chiriana. So we'll see what happens, and I'll do a close-up shot of this. This is the portable Chiriana I made. It's made out of hypertufa. It's on a base of plywood, which I've primed, and we'll paint this probably stained with dark brown so that the ground cover, if there's any tiny little gaps, you won't see anything other than a soil colour. As you can see, it's got its Nozoki Ishi, which is the peeping stone out to the inside. And obviously inside this we will have our ornamental chopsticks and a little bit of evergreen to show that the garden's been cleaned in preparation for the guests. Okay, so after several weeks of looking for Acers, we've managed to find our statement tree at East Keswick Nursery in near Wetherby. It's an Acer palmatum, and it's about 3 meters tall. Needs a bit of thinning and the dead bits taking out. Otherwise, it's a lovely tree with a nice spreading canopy. So we'll probably have fun and games getting it into the van at some stage. But they're very kindly said they'd look after the Acer. We've given it a bit of a feed. We're going to repot it slightly bigger pot. So it's looking good for the show. I'm holding a Camellia Sinensis. We thought we ought to share with you some of the things that haven't gone so well as the ones that have. One of the problems I've had, at least, is looking after my Camellia Sinensis is the camellia that you get tea leaves from. I bought 4 plants some weeks ago, kept them in the greenhouse, shaded, and gave them plenty of water. And they started looking sick, and the edges of the leaves were going crinkly and brown, very much like tea leaves actually. So I went back to see Debbie at Hot Plants, who immediately told me I was overwatering the plant. So we repotted them in dry compost to hopefully draw some of the water out, and I've kept them outside the greenhouse and only watering them very occasionally to keep them damp. So hopefully we'll have some to recover, but Debbie has very kindly said she'll keep a couple of plants for us back for the show should we need them. So hopefully there'll be something for people to see and talk about when they're at the show. Really hope you enjoyed this second video in our short series about getting our longboarder ready for the Wentworth Woodhouse show in July. If you did, please like and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.